why young men don't like the Democrats. I'm really curious. I just want to take a peek. Can I take a peek? Am I allowed to take a peek?
Trump and Vance and them, you know, they just put themselves out there. They're more direct.
They have co-opted masculinity and they've politicized it.
I hate this
I want to see the tone. I want to see the tone.
Joe Rogan of the left that they need one. Joe Rogan is sort of left.
I do feel as though they are a distraction from class consciousness.
All of a sudden, everybody's talking about young men.
Men.
Young men.
More than half of the male vote nationwide went to Trump.
Men under 30.
Men under 30.
In 2016, I voted for Trump over Hillary. Before then, you know, I didn't really vote, but I did support Obama in 2012 and 2008. We definitely went Trump in 2020. Not like I didn't support him. I don't support anything political, you know. I believe that I'm just a working man in America. You know, the president don't matter for me. They ain't gonna pass some crazy executive order that's gonna change my life or anything.
It's all happening.
Just smoke and mirrors for me, you know what I'm saying?
Median voter? Yeah, for sure. It's fucking infuriating, right? Absolutely. This is the I genuinely think one of the main reasons so many politicians turn into like voids, you know, like no beliefs, no principles, whatever, is because they have too many encounters with the median voter. I really think this shit will blackpill you.
I voted in this election. I voted red down the ballot, and I voted in the primary, and before that I was too young.
The last time I voted was 2012 for Obama. It was the first time I could vote. After that, I kind of felt as though, you know, politics and politicians were kind of blending into a uniform party overall, and things weren't fundamentally changing.
All throughout high school, I used to be a Republican, but my family got affected by the 2017 Trump tax cuts.
You got affected by it in what way? In a good way?
In a bad way.
In a bad way, okay.
Yeah, and I was just thinking to myself, like, who is this billionaire to lie to us and say, well, I'm gonna fight for the truck driver, I'm gonna fight for the carpenter and the middle class person, when he's not any of those things.
So I've just had a kind of cynical view on general
elections.
elections.
He seems all right.
You know, I really don't think the general election matters that much unless you live in a handful of states. And I just used a write-in. I voted for local measures, but I don't really feel seen or heard by anyone in the government.
Let's look at some economic realities. In the top 20% of the income distribution, both women and men are flourishing on almost every measure. Growing wealth, longer lifespans. But outside of this top bracket, over the last 50 years, the trajectories for women and men have been very different. Women today are working more and for better pay than ever before. There's still a gender pay gap, but it's narrowing, which is great news. Men, on the other hand, are working less, often for worse pay. Real wage levels for many men are trending down. I wanted to know if the guys...
Is that the actual number, by the way? Employment rate of working class men versus women? That's crazy. Whew, whew, whew.
Worse pay. Real wage levels for many men are trending down. I wanted to know if the guys in this room were feeling the effects of these economic trends. On average, do you think that men are having it harder or women are having it harder in the economy today? I'll start with you, Joel.
I'd say vaguely men, but I'd say vaguely in the
Why?
and sort of barely.
Why is that?
A big problem when you send manufacturing jobs off to other countries is that they are mostly blue-collar jobs. I don't entirely mean to stereotype, but
Manufacturing skews very male. That's just a fact.
Everybody's getting screwed, but I think if you're talking,
I think men on average have it harder, but it's because of men, like plurals. Like, it's because they're stuck being around men, by and large. And the one reason that being a woman could be easier is because you get to be around other women more readily, you know? Because all the reasons that guys have it rough are it's like gay bullshit. Like, I don't know how to connect to my own feelings and don't know how to connect to other people's feelings and so on and so forth, you know? It's in terms of like just direct attainment and opportunity, it's near parity between the two. But guys are fucking miserable. And it's because they're stuck being who they are, and they're stuck being around. Have you seen straight men interact? Jesus Christ, these people look miserable. I mean, it's all jokes, but like, do these people talk to one another? Like, actually talk? I mean, do they? I'm sure some of them do.
50.01, then I think it'd be men.
Personally, like, including myself, I can think of like 5 or 6 of my friends who are guys who have college degrees and who have not been able to find work since graduating. Some of them even with like advanced degrees. I cannot say the same about any of my girlfriends. I can't think of a single one who's unemployed, you know, and part of it is just like, I think women at this age are naturally risk averse, so they're not going to like leave a job if they don't have something lined up.
Is that being risk averse, or is that not being stupid? You shouldn't leave a job if you don't have something else lined up. What do you mean? That's not like, yeah, women are just more risk averse. They don't like fucking sticking their hands in blenders that are turned on. What? You shouldn't do that. Barring extenuating circumstances, you should have another job lined up before you quit your current one. I mean, you know, sometimes people take breaks, but yeah, for the most part, you got to be careful with that.
A lot of different factors, but it's just an interesting thing to think about.
Obviously, I work with a lot of people. They tell me about their wages, their job, and women are definitely doing better in terms of like white collar work. But on the lower end, there's people, of course, that are struggling and people that, you know, need help. And then there's people that just have nothing. And, you know, people that just have nothing, I see that being primarily women on the lower end. But we don't have the same opportunity as we used to, like you brought up with manufacturing. I mean, that's a really
we're miserable, but not because it's inherent. Come on, Vosh. I never said it was inherent. I never say anything's inherent. It's like the main thing I don't say. It's my primary anti-point. You know, it's not inherent at all. There's no innate reason why guys can't listen. Okay, people just it's like a rule of hospitality. People like waitresses, people like female doctors or whatever. There's literally nothing innate that makes men weird and unpleasant interpersonally sometimes. Okay, it's purely just what people are socialized to be. I think we just have to expect more of men, but that'll be better for them. If you expect more of your kid, in the sense that like you teach them, you're like, no, before you get dessert, you have to wash the dishes. Here's how you do your laundry, so on. They're going to be happier as an adult because you're giving them the skills they need to succeed. If you let your fucking, like, if you're teaching your girl how to do curtsies and do laundry and shit, and then you're teaching your guy how to do nothing, and then they both graduate and one of them can take care of themselves, the girl, and the guy can't, well, then whose fault is that, you know? You should have been harder on the guy. We're hard on guys for the wrong things. We don't make them do chores, but we hit them if they cry when they're 6 years old and their Power Ranger toy got rolled over on the driveway. You know, we need to adjust our expectations a little bit. Everyone gets to cry when the Power Ranger gets rolled over, but you have to do chores. Yeah, we should hit little boys when they don't do the chores. Exactly.
Great point.
I also think when it comes to college education, I don't know the exact number, but I'm pretty sure more women go to college nowadays.
Yeah, it's like 60-40, female-male now.
When you're having jobs that are looking for degrees, the percentage of men that don't have a degree versus the percentage of women that do have a degree probably affects it.
Labour force participation for men has dropped 7% in the last 50 years. A third of men with only a high school education are not working today.
It just feels like women are more functional. Like you see, when guys feel bad or have like a mental health lull, like a lapse in their mental wellness or whatever, they just fucking collapse entirely. And then a lot of women can be doing badly mentally, but they can still, you know, put their shoes on, buckle their belt, and go out and do something, you know? It's kind of like how, and I don't know if this is biological or whatever, it's like how when girls get a cold, they can still like make themselves a meal, but when guys get a cold, they're like, and they like lay in bed all day and they can't do anything. I have no idea what percentage of that is social versus like a pain tolerance thing. I'm guessing it's probably mostly social. It's probably mostly social. Because every time I'm sick, I turn into a baby, but in the back of my head, I'm always thinking, am I doing gender right now? I'm laying in bed. I feel bad. My throat's sore. I'm like, I can't do anything. Can I have soup? But in the back of my head, I'm thinking, can I do something? I feel like I could if I wanted to, but I don't want to. I want to lay there.
Whereas in the 60s, almost all of them were working. And that's partly because male-dominated industries, production, manufacturing, construction, transportation, they've all been particularly vulnerable to a 1-2 punch of more free trade and automation. And loss of a job isn't just about the loss of income. For many decades, being able to find a well-paying job and provide for a family was an essential part of the script that men could...
Look at those high-rise trousers. Ah. Testosterone actually does affect your immune system differently. It's not just a gender thing. Okay. I guess you'd know then, right, Tempest? I'll take my shots. I'll take my shots. Beautiful. It is beautiful. Look at that beautiful straight drape. Look at it. This is wonderful. You know, you take a look at, everyone agrees this looks better than how people dress nowadays. Or not how people dress nowadays. When people are wearing trousers and a shirt, you know, whatever.
Look to for how to be in the world. But now things have changed, both for the better, with women having more career opportunities, but also for the worse, with the middle-class standard of living becoming increasingly difficult to afford, sometimes even on 2 salaries. And the men that I talk to, they say that even though the world's changed, the script hasn't really caught up. It's almost like they're being cast in a modern-day HBO drama with a screenplay from Leave It to Beaver.
You know, Wally, shaving is just one of the
whoa,
outward
whoa,
signs
don't
of being a
copyright me.
man.
Don't copyright me.
It's a whole
Stop.
lot more important to
Block.
try to
I'm
be
blocking.
a man inside
Stop.
first.
There's still a feeling of like having to be a provider, despite, you know, the economic situation currently where that's becoming increasing.
I've been wanting to talk about this, but I feel like there's no way for me to talk about it without making a bunch of racist and sexist jokes. Did you guys see that one? There was one guy on Twitter who was like, you know, I'm tired of dating black girls in London. They're always trying to get money from you, and posted a text exchange where a girl was like, oh, you want to take me on a date? Where will you take me? This restaurant that costs a lot, or this restaurant that costs a lot? And then somebody replied and said, I don't think all black women in London are like that. And then there were quote tweets to it, like thousands of people showing screenshots of women trying to fleece them out of money. I don't think they were all black women in London, but like that, literally thousands, like an insane number. And it makes me wonder, man, if I was a straight guy and I was limiting myself to straight women, is this what it would be like out there? Is this what I would be experiencing? Are there really that many girls where you talk to them like a little bit and then they're like, just got my nails done, you gonna cover that? And you're like, I haven't even gone on one date with you. What the fuck are you talking about? Women do be shopping. Women do be shopping for boys, apparently. Never date a straight one, classic mistake. It'll only happen to you if you try to. I don't know. It's crazy. It can't be that common.
Harder,
especially for working class men.
Yeah.
Do you all agree with that? That there is still this expectation on men to be doing well economically?
Absolutely.
Even as it's harder for men to do well economically in many cases?
I think the expectation is there, but I think it's less of an external pressure and more among men. There's a sense of inferiority.
So you think it's more about almost like the competition?
I do, yeah.
But I want to get to this change thing. Maybe, Chris, you and Joel, you both talked about your grandfathers. And I think you both talked about them providing, like, for their family. So how do you think it's different?
It's pretty common to see girls on dating apps say they're looking for a guy to spoil her. I mean, it's basically like a sugar daddy or a sex work thing for a lot of them, right? Like that's basically the implicit exchange where the girl doesn't actually care about having a partner, really. It's just, you know, putting out for financial favors. It can't be that common.
Now, how do you think the expectations on men are different now to they were in your grandfather? Are they better or worse?
Worse, because the economy, you know, things is more expensive now. And our area, the DMV, has a lot to do with it too. Like, this is a high earning area. Cost of living is through the roof. But says my grandfather growing up down in Georgia, South Carolina, I don't even know what their rent was. It's probably somebody's car insurance up
But
here.
women weren't earning as much back then, right?
Nah,
so they were more reliant on him, probably.
I never seen my grandmother work at all.
Exactly.
Yeah, my grandmother never worked. She was always at the house with me, or if I was in school, and my grandfather made enough money.
So she didn't need him economically in a way, maybe that women hopefully don't today.
She just knew that he was going to take care of everything.
Okay. Hayden?
I think men, yes, due to, you know, chivalry and traditional gender roles, they are expected to be providers, but I don't care if my future wife makes more money than me. That doesn't matter.
Do any of you care? Would any of you worry?
I would love that.
I would love that, exactly.
That'd be great.
Yeah.
Really?
That'd be great.
I'm proposing ASAP.
As long as she's in the union.
Fine answer.
Oh, okay, so this is interesting, right? But then we ask this question: do you think that that the guy should pay on the first date?
Oh yeah, maybe
Yes.
the first few.
On the first date.
Okay,
yeah.
all right, let's explore that. Let's
you
explore
know.
it. So there's tension here. All of you said you would be quite happy being in a relationship with a woman that earns more than you, but all of you said that you should pay for the first date, and you said like that's really interesting to me.
I think it's more of an acknowledgement, like, I've asked you out.
So if she asked you out, it might be the other way around.
I mean, maybe, yeah, if she asked me out, I mean, I don't think that's ever happened to me, but like, if a girl was like, me neither. For whatever reason, I really want you to go
It
out.
hasn't happened to any of us,
Fucking rough out here, man. Sheesh.
by the way. So I don't know why we're all laughing.
Men's issues with expectations
Your thoughts? Dog, I don't fucking know. I don't fuck with straight women or whatever. Even on the dating apps, I still get first likes or messages or whatever on Hinge or Tinder or Grindr. Plenty on Grindr. I don't know. It's like a totally alien experience to me. I can say shit like, you know, well, here's how you talk to women, but I'm talking to like gay. Well, not they wouldn't be gay, probably. You know, it's a different culture. Okay. It's a different culture. For anthropological reasons, I need to go to like the most heterosexual communities in America and see what's up. You know, it'd further my understanding. Just have a few conversations.
can work the other way too. In a society following the old gender script, men are not only saddled with expectations, increasingly impossible to meet, but themselves are forced to expect less from certain institutions that are supposed to support everyone.
Why do you think men are struggling so much when competing with women? I just don't think you should be competing. You mean like when compared to women? Women probably have a better social support system, you know? Emotional support structure helps them deal with life's adversities. I feel like a lot of guys mentally are living on the razor's edge where they're like, you know, my life has nothing in it right now. I'm living the most austere, friendless, like no dopamine life imaginable, but I'm gonna like work out max. I'm gonna take the goddamn, you know, cyclical sleeping pill, and once I get this degree and I get that in the job field, I'm gonna make my 6 figures and then I'm gonna make it work. Like they're always living on the edge where if things fall apart even a little bit, they can't really pick themselves up and keep at it. They're like, fuck, my life's over, all my plans are over, because they don't have like friends. It's all fine when you've got friends, man. If you've got like a warm circle of friends or whatever, your life can fall apart in a bunch of ways and you've still got that and you're fine. But if you're living alone in your apartment and you've got nothing, you don't have any hobbies, interests, talents, you're just sort of like numbly walking through life except for this one vision you have, this one plan for the future, then yeah, obviously, if that shit falls apart, your life feels like it's basically over. You know? I think a lot of women just kind of accrue more friends, so it all feels easier, which means they're able to pick themselves up a little bit faster if things actually do go wrong, which, by the way, things will always go wrong. Like, that's just inevitable. You know, when a man plans, God laughs, you know? You can't live your life that way, you know?
They're going to put you on the spot here a bit, Darren, because I know from some of the prep calls that you had some difficulties within a relationship. So we're here talking about dating, but let's talk about how relationships can end.
Do you think dating app culture encourages guy to have something to bring to the table in the absence of a natural prior relationship? I don't know, man. I feel like in my experiences in the dating app, you just have to meet up with somebody and be kind of funny. Listen, girls like it when a guy's a little clown-pilled, you know? You got to honk your red nose at her. That's I don't know. Like, what do you bring into a first date? Your 401k? Your long-term investment plans? You just can't take it too seriously. Just have a good time with somebody. You know, hang out. Fuck. If you guys get along, maybe you'll get married in 2 years or 5. Whatever. Just saying. Like, I feel like if you're dating to marry, I think you're a psychopath. I should say. If you're first dating to marry, I think you're a psychopath. If you're dating, like, a specific person to marry, that's fine. That's normal. But if you're out there thinking about marriage, like, every time you meet a new person, That's fucking crazy, in my opinion. You know, whatever you want, whatever you're into, okay, but like that to me is insane. That's crazy.
Some personal experience with that, if you'd be willing to share.
It was an awful situation, honestly, because she actually ended up like assaulting me. So I have like a bite mark. I even recorded it.
That's not
because
good.
She had whipped me with like a hair blow dryer before. And, you know, I showed it to the judge to try to get a protective order. And, you know, he just laughed at the fact that I was taking back a hair dryer because obviously I don't have any hair. But, you know, as a judge, when I'm saying, hey, this person assaulted me, you know, a domestic violence situation, for him to like make that comment was really painful. And ultimately I got denied the protective order. And
Jesus, that fucking sucks.
She was able to stay in the house and, you know, just continue being around me after assaulting me, after emotionally and mentally tormenting me this whole time.
It sounds like you feel like the courts didn't treat you fairly.
Not at all. I had blood on my arm when I went into the, to go get my protective order against her, and they said this is gonna last for a day. She, 2 days before she moved out, put a protective order on me saying that I was making Instagram posts about her. I was sleeping on the couch this whole time. She said I was busting in her door every day, verbally harassing her, and the judge took that and said, okay, great, your protective order is granted for 7 days like that. And like I said, I walked in with blood on my arm and got one for 1 day.
Darren's story is emblematic, I think, of the problems on one side of the political stalemate over issues of sex and gender. Liberals refuse to accept that gender gaps can now run both ways. And
I think even some of the more obnoxious woke liberals would acknowledge that DV accusations against women are very often not taken seriously if they're from men. I think everyone, but I think liberals, conservatives, leftists, I think pretty much everyone would agree with that in the abstract. The main difference is that conservatives will say, this is fucked up. Nobody takes domestic violence against men seriously. And then when a guy says he's been DV'd by a woman, they'll go, ha ha ha, you fucking pussy bitch. A woman hit you? Ha 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 ha. So there's a bit of an inconsistency there. But yeah.
they're too quick to label male problems as individual failings, symptoms of toxic masculinity. Conservatives, on the other hand...
I feel like basically anyone would be sympathetic to that guy's story, unless it was a conservative kind of performatively being chauvinist, you know?
and do appear to be more sensitive to the struggles of boys and men, but too often as a justification for turning back the clock and restoring traditional roles. So the left turns its back on boys and men, and the right turns back the clock on women and girls. As you can imagine, these guys had a lot to say about both of these problems.
I don't like both sizing it too much. The left has definitely had issues with like performative misandry, but this is not an equal and opposite issue, right? Like the right on anything involving gender parity, the right will make 50,000 bad points for every one good point. And the left, I mean, there are people who do the performative misandry thing to be sure, but they're not institutionally powerful, right? These like femcel types that talk about how, you know, all women or all men should be raped and killed. Like these people don't have any, you know.
What I'll say about Democrats not only abandoning men, but I also think they kicked them into the curb and spit on them. You're telling men not to be men. You're telling men they can't watch football because it's sexist or UFC because it's sexist.
It must suck to be a conservative guy and to feel like the walls are coming down around you because of shit you've read online from other conservatives. That's crazy. I can't imagine having that kind of victim mentality.
Yeah, men are into fighting. That's why Trump is there. You know, because Trump isn't abandoned us.
The Democratic Party has abandoned men. I wholeheartedly agree with that. Does everyone else?
Yeah.
But I think what's worse is the Republican Party actively lying to men. They play the culture war. They don't want to talk about who could actually be exploiting them, like billionaires, corporations.
I do think you could fairly argue that the Democratic Party has given up on straight men. And my evidence to that point is that even though straight men make up a significant portion of the population, there are shockingly few of them in a bunch of the consultancy circles that Democratic politicians rely on, especially straight white men, right? Like I'm pretty sure Kamala Harris's primary comms team was it primary Harris's comms team after she began running? It was 9 people, of whom 1 was a straight white man. Maybe it was 0 were a straight white man. They're underrepresented, and it is crazy to think that there's like a politically powerful field where straight white men are underrepresented, but it's also true. And I think that's because within the Democratic Party, they don't really, again, it's like Hamilton liberalism, right? It's like liberal woke, Liberal woke is like the Huffington Post editorial board being made up entirely of white women. And they're like, look at how progressive we are. There's not a single man here, but also basically everyone there is white. Not black or brown. It's just very empty. It's very empty. It's not because they hate straight white men. It's just I don't know. They're girl bossing it up.
Like, trans people are not hiking my credit card interest rates. Well, they did not keep my wages stagnant. You're focusing on the wrong 1%.
You're a right-wing man, Joel. What do you think?
I was going to say...
Just threw you under the bus.
To your point, yeah.
I'm sorry. I had to get that out, man. I had to.
It's an open forum. It's an open forum.
Go on.
Yeah, I might have to say a point against...
Speaking as a transphobe.
Speaking as a transgender myself. But, no.
Yeah, crazy.
No,
he does have tits.
No, the point you made earlier about how sort of the working class people on both sides, there really is no need to hate each other. I was thinking about that recently. The divide in America really should be class. Work versus, the elite. I can't see
people love to say this and then to say Trump is saving white men by going to the UFC because he's the one president that won't abandon us. People love to say shit like that and then talk about class war over culture war.
Any conceivable way how in 2024 black people and white people can hate each other, or Mexicans or Latinos or whoever to hate each other. Really, we should be hating the people making us hate each other.
Yes.
Now you can call it the Illuminati or Hydra. I call them Democrats, but besides that, no, I'm kidding.
We're not cutting the corporate tax rate and giving them the ability to exploit their workers, but
on the culture point, though, right? Wouldn't you say it does go both ways?
In which regard?
Don't you think on the left there could be a bit of a tendency to get women to blame men? It's patriarchy, it's toxic masculinity.
I'm not disagreeing with that at all.
Isn't there an argument that it's actually equally true on the left?
I wouldn't say it's equal.
Especially on gender.
I would say the right absolutely plays more into the culture war than the left does.
I would say the reason why we do that now is if you look at, I'd say the 90s, the early 2000s, the right, the Republicans at least, weren't playing into the culture war thing. So we lost. We lost for a long time. And honestly, I think
in the 90s and 2000s? During the Iraq War? What? I don't. It's one of those opinions that's so fractally incorrect that it would take forever to unpack, and the person said it without thinking. So, I don't know.
We still might. I think we did lose, and I think it's going to take a while for sort of Judeo-Christian morals to come back into over 50%.
How would you know if they had come back?
I guess we're so open nowadays. Would kind of be a way to describe it. We aren't.
Unironically, a big part of the reason why men are struggling is because there are a lot of guys like him. Seriously, I think that's like that. Like you can distill it pretty well to that. It fucks everything up.
In ancient Judea 2,000 years ago, in a way, which I think is fine. I think it's the world we live in. I don't need women covering themselves.
Well, very few people would want to go back to.
No, I don't want to either. I like America.
So let me ask you, whether you think the Democrats or the Republicans speak best to men right now?
I'd probably say the Republicans. I really can't answer it because I don't pay attention. None of them affect me. But I see more of the Republicans, whatever they're talking about, because Trump and Vance and them.
This video came out 5 months ago. I wonder if this guy has reviewed his position that politics doesn't affect him personally after the SNAP cuts and the Medicaid cuts. Because something tells me that this guy is not, pardon me for my classism, I just get a feeling this guy might be relying on the government a little bit to keep his fridge full. I wonder if anything's changed since this was recorded in his head.
You know, they just put themselves out there. They're more direct. You see Joe Biden is just some old guy. You can barely hear him. You know what I'm saying? You don't know what the hell he's talking about. And then you got Trump, who's going to come direct, more just to where I understand it.
I do agree that I feel like Republicans or conservatives have signaled to men, younger men, you have a place here. If you come with us, you'll have fun. You know, you can be expressive. You can open yourself. You don't have to.
That is true. That's 100% true. Republicans give young men a narrative and a way to cut loose online. This is why, like, I think that you have kind of a two-hump camel a little bit, where online the most aggressive male posters are either on the right or they're on what would have been called the dirtbag left. Like, there are a lot of people who are kind of in the, like, Cumtown, Chapo sphere, or I guess previous Cumtown, whatever, but guys who are far enough to the left that they're getting a bit silly with it, and now they get to be as vindictive online as they want. Some of the most, like, aggressive, obnoxious, but fun, right, people online, or on Twitter specifically, because that's where I am, right, are lefty shit posters. You know? But in order to reach that point, you have to be far left enough. Because I ask you, how many genuinely incisive male liberal shit posters are there? There are literally like 100 million liberal guys in this country. Where are they? There's like none. There's like none. There's like none, man. Does Kyle count as liberal? No. We're talking about mannerisms here. Kyle Kalinske, he's fucking more aggro than anyone. You know what I'm talking about here, right? The Republican Party gives young men a way to cut loose online. The Democratic Party does not. What is Schumer or Jeffries doing to help people go out there and you know, cut loose with the catharsis, right? It's not happening. Matt Iglesias isn't a shit poster. You people are just saying stuff.
Be polite. You don't have to pretend to be someone you're not. You know, you don't have to be restrained. I don't believe it's the way that they funnel men into this corner is the best. I mean, you'll watch a video on YouTube about working out, and then Andrew Tate will pop up eventually, and then you know, some more right-wing comedian will pop up, and then you'll have, you know, Joe Rogan, and then you'll have Ben Shapiro, and then you'll just be exposed to this whole manosphere.
When Woke 2 happens, we will build a throne on the skulls of Woke 1, okay? Or from the skulls of Woke 1. There are elements of Woke 1 we cannot take with us to Woke 2, right? The virtue signaling, the purity testing, the performative disavowal of others. That, like, we need to stay mean. We gotta be lean. We gotta be mean. Yeah, no more of that woke scolding bullshit, okay? There's no more room for that. No more room for that. Yeah, you can't be a humorless little narcissist who weaponizes the language of social justice to go after everyone who you feel socially threatened by. Fuck that, okay? We need to keep silly with it.
This term, the Joe Rogan of the left that they need. When Joe Rogan is sort of left. He endorsed Bernie Sanders in 2016 and 2020.
All I've seen in my lifetime is Democrats conceding more and more and more and more.
Especially on men's issues,
Especially on men's issues. And they're just, like, you know, slowly, like, shrinking the circle of issues that they actually care about to align with things that aren't going to get their donors pissed off at them, you know? I love the point, though, about Joe Rogan endorsing Bernie Sanders twice, because anytime somebody who appeals to young men across the board rises to a level where they might actually reach any sort of real power, Democrats just kneecap them.
The Democrats don't have a narrative when the Republicans do. The Republicans are immigrants, trans...
Mars Stranded. I've been doing this a lot lately, but today you've been selected. Congratulations. You're this website's daily 10,000th visitor. Not even. It's been more than that, I imagine. It's been a big day. You're getting the eye directed towards you. You've been nice to me. Look, here's you being nice to me. I need to respond to what you're engaging in, which I think I would call kind of uninformed cynicism here. Is there any evidence that either side actually cares about anyone? Is it at all performative BS to get votes and money? All politicians hate all of you. I don't get it. Who's honestly stupid enough to believe any of this? The powers that be are going to do what matches the curve. They don't care about you. Listen, okay? Politicians are just one leaf dancing in the wind, okay? After a great gust has knocked 1,000 leaves off the tree, all right? They're just a part of a broader atmosphere. There's no hierarchy, no real hierarchy, no pure hierarchy. There's no people on top. Some people are higher up than others, but no one's controlling all of this, right? Real power in the long run is cultural power, it's social power, especially in a country like this, where everything is so, bureaucratic, sort of rooted in systemic review, everything that has to be pushed forward through Congress, through law, whatever else. There's a bureaucratic procedure for it. Real lasting power is cultural, Politicians often are insincere, but they often also blow with the wind like a leaf in the wind. And moreover, they're still real people. Like, they are real people. Even the really disingenuous ones are real people, They're shaped by their environments. They're receptive to specific issues and talking points. When your cynicism reduces you to these positions, this like, well, man, the elites don't care about you. Sure, and they never have, and they never will. But it's not about them caring about you. That's not the battle we're fighting. We're not fighting this battle to make the big boys love us, okay? I don't give a shit how the big boys feel about me specifically, or you, or any of us. What we're talking about really are incentive structures. How do you get people to do the things you want them to do and like doing it? How do you get them to want to do those things? It's one thing to force a person to do something. If you have more power than they do, sure, fine, but that's not sustainable in the long run, and you have to keep that up, You want people to want to do the things that you want them to want to do. Messaging? Yeah, messaging's a big part of it. When it comes to this stuff, right, the gender war, whatever, a big part of it is cultural, And culture, it flows up, not the other way around, There's kind of a convection current to it, right? You get reflections in, it's like this one thing I saw in a documentary. It's true, right? And it happens in all kinds of ways. It's like how MSNBC became an inaccurate pantomime of youth culture in America. Because where does did I say MSNBC? MTV. Because where does MTV get its cues on what youth culture looks like? They look at the youth. But where do the youth go to learn how they should behave? Well, they went to MTV. So you get this feedback loop where eventually both versions of both halves of the engagement become inauthentic copies of one another. They become flanderized, they hyperbolize until eventually the system breaks and no one takes MTV seriously anymore. Now everyone sees it for what it is, corporate slop. This happened decades ago, but it was a real process at the time. Basically, what I'm getting at here is, it's not about them caring about you, okay? That's not the battle. Put the thing in the thing.
People, a bunch of minority communities, they're the reason why your life is bad. The Democrats don't have that. They have, we're going to tinker around the edges of the status quo.
Well, wouldn't they say that it's the billionaires, it's the oligarchs?
I don't think the corporate wing of the party would.
They're sitting in the room.
Yeah, they're sitting in the room. The Democrats have as much corporate money as the Republican Party does.
Do you think that the Democrats have become too much the women's party?
I don't even think you can really say that. Like, I think there are probably more women that vote Democrat than men.
That's true. Absolutely true.
But I think Democrats are just completely empty and lack any real spine when it comes to any issues whatsoever.
Well, that's true. Also, the Democratic Party does absolutely 100% go out of its way to cater to women. They absolutely do. No, the Democratic Party does not leave within itself any room for what I would call, I guess, performative masculinity, toxic or otherwise. There is lots of performative femininity, from the girl boss talking points of Hillary Clinton and Kamala Harris to God, everything on The View. Honestly, geez, they don't really give you much to hook on to.
Republicans, they do the things they campaigned on. For better or worse, I think most of the policies they implement are just objectively evil and create more human suffering than, we already have. But they actually do them, and it speaks to voters. If you're the kind of person that thinks illegal immigrants are causing all the problems in this country, then you like what's going on right now. You like that people are being randomly kidnapped off the street.
There's an authenticity to it.
They're not telling you one thing and doing another. Democrats, on the other hand,
I think I largely agree with it. Yeah, I mean the Republicans lie, but at the very least, they tend to be pretty upfront and straightforward about the evil stuff that they want to do. There's a relationship between what they say and what they do. Whereas with the Democrats, right? You're who the fuck knows in a lot of cases.
Tell you that they want to do all these progressive things. They tell you they support, lowering the cost of healthcare and education. They tell you they support, raising the minimum wage. And then what happens when they get in office? Biden.
Now Republicans lie way more. They lie more, but having watched my stream a while, don't we have so much easier of a time reading the Republicans, their intentions, what they're trying to do, than the Democrats? Schumer and Jeffries are like steel cages up here, man. They say stuff, they do stuff, who know, why this, why that, oh my God, I don't know what they want. Do they even want to win? Do they even want to win? Republicans want to win, It's an easier time predicting their actions because, they're evil, sure, at least that gives you some kind of metric to judge what they're going to do. It's a kind of lying.
Can't even get his own senators to approve raising the minimum wage from $7.25 an hour. The fact that that's still the federal minimum wage in this year, 2025, is a joke.
What they were talking about really was a sense of authenticity. There's a high degree of respect among men, I think especially for young men, for men who say what they think and stand by it.
He's been insanely consistent his entire life. He's basically been saying the same thing, been for the same thing his whole life.
That kind of codes as
talking about Bernie
masculine
there,
virtue.
The Republicans, they have co-opted masculinity and they've politicized it. You see it in UFC. I'm on the left. I like watching UFC. I think it's very entertaining. I think it's a very skill-filled sport. But I don't want to see Trump and RFK.
It was incredibly stupid that Kamala Harris basically ignored the podcasting circuit. She didn't go on Joe Rogan. She could have gone on a bunch, but she ignored them. The one podcast she was willing to do was that Call Me Daddy one, which was big gay male female audience, right? There was one, the Call Her Daddy ones. The one she did, and it was a girl coded one, It's it's okay, Kamala. I think you're already getting the female vote.
Jr. and nerdy Mike Johnson walking to the octagon. People...
You kind of do want to see Mike Johnson do that.
I don't want to see him anywhere.
Nowhere has all of this mess played out more than in one...
Well, yeah, Marstrand did a big part of being involved in politics and having to deal with that emotionally. And for me, it's one of the most difficult parts is reconciling with the fact that a lot of people are just genuinely retarded and full of hate. Not even retarded in an endearing way, but they're wretched people and they're stupid and they're self-destructive and they would kill you and themselves if they were told that they'd get a cookie for it. It's unfortunately it's always going to be like that. It's just the human condition. Incurious, belligerent. Yeah, no. People are truly wretched, but they're also they're the only thing worth fighting for in this fucking cold rock we've got. Okay, it's very much like a listen. Okay, it's the human condition or the cold vacuum of space. And for me personally, I don't know. I don't think I'd fare too well out there. My skill set here as a live streamer, not up there. I'll take what I can get.
Specific phrase.
What do you think of the term toxic masculinity? Good and useful term or a bad and unhelpful term?
Who's answering that?
I'm just going to see who wants to take toxic masculinity.
I love the term because it triggers low IQ men. Honestly, it's look, either it's an IQ test. You pass and you're fine with it, or you fail and you get weird and belligerent and angry about it, and that's it. It's fun for that reason,
This is how we find out who's the most toxic.
Well, I hope I ain't too toxic, but for me, I don't even believe in nothing like that. I believe a man is supposed to be a man. You know what I'm saying? You're supposed to be masculine. Man. No matter if another man feels offended by it, everybody ain't gonna respect you. Everybody ain't gonna like you. If a woman's saying that a man's doing too much or something, He's just trying to be a man, you know.
Or he might be being a jerk or a predator or whatever.
So what do they mean by toxic masculinity?
Well, that's the question.
Okay, yeah, I never understood it.
At one point, this term toxic masculinity had a very narrow and concrete, quite academic definition. And it wasn't actually created by kind of liberal academic elites. It came from a group of men, specifically men driven by a kind of spiritual movement in the 80s and 90s that was a response to feminism in many ways. Until around 2015, the phrase warranted just a few footnotes, really, in academic journals. But with the rise of Donald Trump and the Me Too movement, progressives brought this term toxic masculinity into everyday use. Suddenly it was everywhere, thousands of mentions, impossible to ignore. But the term's very rarely defined, and it now seems to refer to any male behavior that the user of the term disapproves of, from the
It's real. Is it really? Man, I feel like the definition's pretty clear cut, right? If you're doing something that's archetypically masculine, right? Like an archetypically masculine trait, but it's producing bad outcomes. You know? So like maybe it's masculine to be independent, you know, like independent minded a bit. Okay, whatever, right? But then maybe it's toxic masculine if you refuse to ask for help no matter what. It's masculine to be kind of, you know, confident. It's toxic masculine to be domineering, right? Like you're bowling over everyone. Like, I don't know. I don't feel like it's that difficult. Toxic femininity is a thing for sure. You could, like, for instance, maybe like being polite is a feminine virtue, but being sort of like a doormat isn't. That'd be toxic, right? Mean girl shit, you know? I don't know.
Tragic to the trivial. Toxic masculinity has been blamed, among other things, for mass shootings, gang violence, rape, online trolling, climate change, the financial crisis, Brexit, the election of Donald Trump.
And all of it is correct. These are really, really easy to tie back to. Like, all of these are a pretty straight shot. 100%. Yeah.
Even an unwillingness to wear a mask during the COVID-19.
Yeah, they were making that case for themselves. They were like, I'm a manly man. I don't need to take rules and muzzle myself with no mask. Yeah, that's retarded. It's a disease.
Pandemic.
Vaguely speaking, it's overused. I mean, they said the term boys will be boys is offensive now in the same sort of way. And it's like, you know, guys want to drink and punch each other. I don't get how that's toxic. I mean, I can sort of get.
No, you don't. Quit with this gay fucking like artificial media constructed. You don't do that shit. Okay? You're a doughy, chunky, like nerd computer guy. That's fine, man. Quit pretending. Yeah, you know how guys are. We just like to drink whiskey and punch stuff. No, you don't. You would find that unpleasant. Which is fine. That's fine. I'm not shaming you for that, okay? I don't want to drink and punch stuff. And I used to box. I mean, that was fun. I mean, I guess in that context it was fun. But I don't even drink. Too many calories. I'm just like, it's so performative. You're doing it for the other men here.
The idea of, you know, when Prohibition was coming to America, the idea is that the man makes the money, and instead of spending on his family, he spends it on whiskey. You're like, oh, and then he beats his wife. Like, yeah, I guess that's being toxically masculine, but I don't think that a wholesale exists anymore. I just think it's a term.
Guys don't beat their wives anymore? Wait, what? You provided a correct example of a real thing, and then you're like, well, no one does that anymore. There's no domestic violence anymore. Okay. Congratulations, everyone. I didn't realize that we were done with it. I assumed it was still an issue.
Yeah, to put down men who want to be men. I'm not into makeup. That might be shocking.
That's just toxic.
That's just toxic. That's just regular toxic.
Before 2016.
We're like pandering to this guy. Don't want to do makeup. Who the fuck? Who's ever told you not doing makeup is toxic masculinity? Nobody's told you this. Nobody's ever told you this. Ever. This never happened in your life.
For this dressed up word, you know, you'd have this guy's an asshole. You know, he's overly aggressive. He's just, way too forward, or he's creepy, or whatever it might be. So you call him an asshole, you call him weird, you know, whatever. But now it's toxic masculinity, and then there's like a whole bunch of other opinions that people can just lump into toxic masculinity. But when you call someone an asshole, you kind of just know what they're talking about.
They
right
need to
there.
go back
Yeah,
to just
good.
saying
All right.
that. That's a lot easier.
Say that again.
They should just go back to just calling guys a-holes. Like,
I'd
that's
like
the
to be called
perfect
So,
definition.
conclusion of this debate, everyone's an asshole.
We should just
No
embrace
one's
it.
toxic.
I really wish we could do an interview with guys like this where the interviewer was less concerned with smoothing over everyone's feelings. You know, with like a play it off kind of joke. I'd like to see some interrogation.
Accomplished.
I don't find this response from the guys here surprising at all. Very few men or boys are going to react well to the idea that there's something toxic inside of them.
That's not what toxic masculinity. That's not what that means. Why are you? What? More perfect union. Why are you lying about the definition? Toxic masculinity doesn't mean masculinity is toxic. Toxic is an adjective to describe the masculinity. So even if you are masculine, that doesn't mean you're toxic, man. That'd be like saying, you know, because a person could be like, well, your hand has shit on it. You have a beshitted hand. What, now everyone with hands got shit on it? I'm sorry, I'm pretty tired. That was pretty weak, guys. You understand my point? Nobody arguing the definition of toxic masculinity is saying it should mean, oh, well, every man is toxic. That doesn't mean anything.
be exorcised.
It's just weird to me. What More Perfect Union is like a lefty channel. Why lie about the definition?
I didn't try to raise my sons to be not toxic. That's not a very empowering message.
What are you talking about? You might not have used the word toxic, but you probably taught them important moral lessons. Like you shouldn't punch people because you're angry, right? Like you don't have to use the word toxic. The term toxic masculinity it's an academic term. It describes a phenomena.
I think, if anything, it's the opposite, that the term toxic masculinity will sort of drive more boys and men away.
Is this a right-wing channel? Am I off on is More Perfect Union Strasserist? Is this like a Blue Dog Democrat channel? What is this?
To the online manosphere, where they'll be reassured at least that there's nothing wrong with them and that it's actually the liberals who are out to get them.
Listen, if you're a guy and you come across the term toxic masculinity and you get offended, genuine, there's no two ways about it. You are retarded and you're very insecure. I'm not cushioning that in any way. Flat out, you failed the IQ test, okay? Read a fucking book or Google the definition. Like, stop, like, Jesus Christ, you're outsourcing your thinking to the world's stupidest grifters, okay? This is a you fucking problem. Yeah, and a lot of people are retards. Look, let me tell you this, okay? There's a big grifter industrial complex out there. There is absolutely no way to criticize any bad element about any group of people without somebody telling you, oh, you're only alienating them by doing that. Fuck that. I don't think so little of men that I assume that literally any cultural critique has to be met with a bunch of like disingenuous ball coddling first, you know? It's fucking ridiculous. They don't do it. Imagine if Sargon of Akkad was like, actually, I won't criticize Muslims who come to the West and rape little girls, because if I did that, I would only be stigmatizing the behavior and discouraging Muslims who come to the West from listening to me. Do you think he believes that in all cases? Do you think he, in all instances, he thinks it's a good idea to avoid criticizing bad behavior because it alienates the people you're trying to reach? Ridiculous.
But also, at a deeper level, what this means is that we miss the opportunity to address the real structural problems facing many boys and men, when instead we focus on the toxic flaws in those individual men. So if they're
generalized statement that means nothing. This means nothing. What do you mean? We can't talk about general issues men are experiencing. Toxic masculinity also negatively affects the guys they're the primary victims. Easy for you to say as a fairly self-actualized 30-something. A lot of 12-year-old boys are absolutely vulnerable to hearing shit like toxic masculinity and taking it at face value as an indictment of men. They would take any criticism. Listen, you can't not teach guys about toxic masculinity because you're afraid of them getting offended. Do we not teach them virtue? You can't say it's wrong to hit people when you're mad at them. That'll alienate guys. What do you mean? They don't listen. The term toxic masculinity is an academic thing. Are we we permit bad behavior? We can't teach virtue. The problem is that there is a grifter complex of people who make their money off of soothing the egos of retarded, emotionally damaged 12-year-old boys who are incels to be. Okay, this is a cultural issue that needs fixing. But I reject the idea that you can't teach slavery in schools. You'll make the white boys uncomfortable. What are you talking about? I don't know. I just want to say things that are true. It is true that if you think it's masculine to beat your wife, that's bad. That's true. Morally, to me, that's a pretty easy yes that it's bad.
Depressed, we say it's because they don't express their feelings. If men get sick,
insane comparison. It's the same though. It's exactly the same argument. Don't bring up toxic masculinity because you're going to alienate young men and make them feel bad for general problems. It's the same argument as you shouldn't teach about slavery in school because you're trying to make young white people feel bad and make them feel guilty about general problems. It's exactly the same argument, you know?
It's because they won't go to the doctor. If they fail at school, it's because they don't try hard enough. And that's a very far cry from how the term was originally meant to be used.
I think the term itself comes from a good intention, which is like, how can we create a healthier society for everyone involved? I think most of us would agree that there's a severe mental health problem in this.
I really don't like how confidently this host dismisses the validity of the term without even providing a definition. Like, the definition he implied was wrong, you know? I don't know. I think the problem with this term I've just misdefined is that we're not applying it correctly and it causes more harm than good. You're contributing to the culture of it being more harmful than good. You're reaffirming the tendency for people to hear it and instantly assume it means a criticism of all men. It's ridiculous.
And a lot of the time it manifests itself in men.
80% of suicide,
right, the suicide rate, rates of addiction, rates
much higher among men.
Much higher.
I'd like to dig in a bit more on just how the mental health issues are kind of playing out differently for men and women. I mean, I shared some stats earlier around the much higher suicide rates among men. Actually, it's gone up most among young men. It's really men under 30 where we've seen the rise. The rise in drug poisoning deaths has been mostly men. Substance abuse is mostly men. And so it's not to say there aren't issues that go the other way, but I'd just like any more reflections that you've got on how you think the mental health stuff is playing out. We talked a bit about the lack of male psychologists and your counselor. So maybe we should start with you, Ed, and talk a bit about your own experience.
Yeah, so I'm in recovery. I'm sober. I've been sober from primarily alcohol. For 2.5 years.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And it's a little tough being a 24-year-old in recovery, having the weird eyes and the weird questions.
Well, I haven't had a drink for 5 years. It's not much easier in your 50s.
Oh, congrats. Nice.
Thank you.
But no, it was just, I'd gone through personally a whole, string of personal losses. And unfortunately, I turned to alcohol to cope with my issues mentally, emotionally, and physically. And I needed all the help I could get.
I think that the whole area of mental health gets, if we're not careful, it gets coded as a bit female.
Oh boy. But Vosh, isn't that how trigger words work? It's not, there aren't trigger words. It's just a random academic term that gets brought up over and over and over again and maliciously misused by the right, including by this guy, in an effort to falsely give the impression that criticism of bad tendencies is an innate criticism of men, which is misandristic, by the way. It's misandry to say that. At the end of the day, virtue needs to be taught. There are elements of femininity and masculinity that are bad, all right? Like the way they express themselves at times are bad. That's the case with everything. Literally all archetypes, all personality traits, everything that can be it exists on a spectrum from good to bad. There are various ways of doing it. Some are better than others. That has to be acknowledged, whatever term people want to use. But like at the end of the day, again, this is a grift issue, okay? The only reason 90% of young men hear the term toxic masculinity, they're not reading the Huffington Post or the Guardian. They're hearing it because they're watching some retarded pedophile on YouTube explain to them how feminists want all men to be killed or whatever. They're hearing it from people who have a financial incentive to lie to them. Yeah, same with critical race theory. Same with all these terms. Like, don't pretend it's the term itself. People willfully lie about it because they make money from packaging the insecurity of young men and running with it, you know? Yes, and those retarded pedophiles define the semantic meaning of the phrase. Right, because they lie about it? Sure, but they do that with everything, including critical race theory. They say, you know, DEI is anti-white. I mean, do we let them define everything? We can't use anything ever because people on the right will lie about it?
Yeah.
It's what women do. The websites look quite female.
Boys don't cry, all that stuff, you know, puff out your chest kind of shit. I don't know. Boys can't go to therapy. I think everybody in their life should go to therapy. They should try it once.
Like Darren said, most of the medical field is all women.
Well, it's certainly shifting that way. And like psychology, therapy, social work, they're just becoming massively more female.
Jobs like these, increasingly dominated by women, fall into the industries that I call HEAL: health, education, administration, and literacy.
Haven't these industries always been dominated by women? I don't know if that trend has been going up or down lately. I don't know how much it shifted.
If we're going to do right by the men in our society, we need to both protect workers in traditionally male industries and help men adapt to current economic realities by encouraging them to transition into these HEAL jobs. We know a lot about STEM initiatives for women, and they've helped massively. We've tripled the share of STEM workers who are women. But we now need the same type of mass effort for young men to encourage them into education and health.
Yeah, but the difference is women wanted to be scientists. They were just discouraged from it because there was a bunch of rooted sexism in academia. Men can be nurses. They just don't want to because they think it's gay. Like that's the imbalance, right? Like that's the problem, you know? It's like guys can be air hosts if they want, you know, air stewards. You've got kind of there's a difference in how they approach these issues, you know?
I'm very proud of the fact that my son is a 5th grade teacher. And gender gaps can't be addressed without also addressing class gaps. While the gender pay gap has narrowed by 19 percentage points in the last 40 years, the class pay gap between the top and the middle has widened by 12 percentage points. There's a moment really I want to leave you with, stuck with me and I found inspiring. After we'd wrapped up, the 5 young men who disagreed with each other pretty strongly, they sat and shared a bite to eat, exchanged numbers, and they just hung out with each other, not as representatives of different political ideologies or as enemies, but as fellow young men trying to figure things out. And as we discussed, a lot of young men don't have a script anymore for how they should be in the world. Quite often they know what they shouldn't do, but they don't know what they should do. And so what we need now are some new economic and social scripts which allow for a positive vision of masculinity that is also compatible with gender equality.
A positive version of masculinity. So almost like the opposite of another non-positive kind of masculinity, one might say. I'll have to stew on that one.
If we're going to write a new script for men that matches modern society, it's not going to come out of finding the perfect influencer. It's going to come out of messy conversations like this one. So thank you for...
Again, the problem is that, like, they're not really messy conversations. There was one person in this room who was correct, and well, no, there were actually 2.5 people who were correct, and then there were people who were very, very wrong. It's not really messy conversation, you know. Like I don't know. You have to shame people for being wrong, and we just need to be meaner to people, basically. I don't want to reach out across the aisle. Listen, my enthusiasm for reaching out across the aisle on this particular issue died out so much when we all had to endure a solid 18-month period where the #1 guy in the manosphere, Andrew Tate, was just openly a sex trafficker who said rape was good and women were dogs. And we all just had to live in that world. I mean, past like the idea, like it's just conversations we have to have. Oh, Sorry, here's the new discourse. Here's the new zeitgeist that you have to contend with. This is what we're talking about now. Fuck you. Jesus Christ, you just have to shame people. Like, seriously, like, you should, if there's like a guy who's into Tate, no one is anymore because these people pop up and fall off like, you know, fucking, it's crazy. My career has been more stable and lasted longer than like 8 waves of Manosphere bullshit, you know, which is insane to think about. But like, you see people who get caught into this, you don't want to debate them because they don't want to fucking debate either. They just want to rape people, or at least like virtue signal to other men, or vice signal that they'd be like totally cool with it, you know? You can't. And by the way, I really don't think a lot of them even believe it, okay? It's like when the incel neo-Nazis online talk about how much they wish they could be doing the Holocaust or whatever. No, you don't, dude. No, you don't. You would throw up if you saw a corpse in real life. You probably have Jewish friends. You are vice signaling to impress other incels online. I do not. You're a fake demon. You're a fucking fake demon, dude. If they gave you a gun and 6 million Jews, you know, squatted against a wall, you would throw up and shoot yourself. You don't have the, you want to play video games. You want a cute girl to kiss you on the head. Okay? Fuck off. None of you people want the shit you say you want. You're all just vice signaling. Anyway, finish the video.
That matches modern society. It's not going to come out finding the perfect influencer. It's going to come out of messy conversations. Like,
oh, wait, I already did this. Okay, fuck. This made me more mad than I thought it would. Well, at least now the second stream wasn't an hour. Okay.